In summary, let's run down quickly what you need to have in order to produce successful birds. Okay, you need some sort of shelter, 1/4 square foot per bird for probably 6 to 8 weeks for these heritage breed egg layers. Also, you need heat source. This can be either your traditional heat lamp or kind of your newer radiative heater. Whatever it is, it needs to be warm, it needs to be consistent, it needs to be reliable. You also need some bedding. This can be any source of carbon, just make sure you got a good amount of it. Food, non-medicated, whatever is available. Organic, whatever you can find, non-organic, doesn't matter. Just get food and get it to them. You can provide it to them in any sort of container. They're not picky. Water. Again, make sure it's clean, fresh, and available. And provide them with some grit, and then you will be on your way to a successful flock. Welcome back to another video, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. As you can see behind me, I have 24 brand new baby chicks. Now, these chicks are all female egg layers. We have 12 Barred Rocks, 6 New Hampshire Reds, and 6 Silver-Laced Wyandottes. I got those because that's all that was available, and I tried really hard at all of my local farm stores to get some other breeds, specifically Rhode Island Reds. Those are my personal favorite, but as I'll talk about later in the video, it's very hard to find exactly what you want right now. These chicks are very, very popular, and I think they're going to be extremely popular here in the spring, which is kind of why I'm making this video, so I can help you as a new chick owner have the most success possible. We will leave links to some common things that you'll need for your brooder in the description below, so check those out. So, first thing, what do you need to have a successful brooding and chick raising and ultimately an egg laying experience? First thing you're gonna need is somewhere to put your chicks. Behind me here, this is a structure that I built that is 6 feet by 4 feet. That's 24 square feet. That'll give you enough room to brood about 90 chicks. Now, I made it this big because we raise 75 meat birds at a time, so it just worked out. 6 by 4 was an easy thing for me to build. But you, if you're only getting 4 to 6, 10 chicks, you only need about 1/4 square foot per bird, okay? So you can really use any sort of container with decently tall sides. So these sides here are 2 feet deep. So you want to make sure that you have 1/4 square foot per bird and have tall sides. The main thing with the structure that you're going to place the chicks in is that you cannot have any drafts. So you notice that this brooder that I have here is inside of an external garage that we have. And so there's definitely no drafts. It is relatively cold out here, but as you can see, it's not really affecting them. They have plenty of heat from this one heat lamp, as well as I have another source of heat. We'll talk about that in a minute. So just make sure you have enough space, 1/4 square foot per bird, and tall sides, no drafts. That's pretty much it. You can put them in almost anything. They don't mind. Now, the second most important thing, I believe, is the heat. You have to have a solid, reliable source of heat. These generic heat lamps, they work great. they can be a little bit dangerous. We had a situation before I had built this brooder where we had them in the garage attached to our house, and I had built a little cover, and it had a wooden piece going across as a support, and the heat lamp was actually starting to burn that support piece. So you definitely do not want to have the heat lamp in contact with anything that is combustible. So in our setup here, I have this heat lamp, and it is secured by a chain up to the ceiling. So there's no way that this D-loop here is going to come off. And it's nice to have it on this chain from above because I can raise it and lower it as needed. So if I notice the birds are getting a little too hot, and you'll know that because they'll be very spread out, they won't be directly under the heat lamp. They'll be on the very, very edges of the heat so they don't overheat. So in that case, I would just move it up a little bit. If the birds are too cold, they're gonna be really packed in tight underneath there, like on top of each other. So in that instance, you would just lower this heat lamp down a little bit. Now, another option for heat is what we have back in the corner over here. That's a radiative heater. That's a really good option for kind of a smaller number of birds. It doesn't put off nearly as much heat as the traditional heat lamp, but it does work well. We've used it and had a lot of success. But these ones that we have now are mainly spending their time under this heat lamp. I've seen a couple of them go underneath the radiative heater, but just because of the volume of heat under the heat lamp, that's where they're spending most of their time. So you've got a couple options for heat, but it needs to be consistent, it needs to be warm, it needs to be secure for your safety and the birds. All right, third addition to your brooder. You need to have some sort of bedding. This can be any source of carbon because carbon will absorb the poop and the pee from the birds, and it will not smell. So any sources of carbon include just your classic wood shavings that you can get from basically any farm store. You can use the fine shavings, but I just prefer the regular flakes. The fine ones can be really dusty at times, so the flakes I think are a little bit better of an option. But use what you have, use what's available to you. You can even use, I've seen people use just shredded up paper. If you've got access to a lot of paper at your work, shredded up paper, that'll work great. Just make sure it doesn't have a ton of ink. Like, you don't want to be having them sit and scratch through and peck at old pictures. That wouldn't really work. So paper, wood shavings, wood chips, those are great. Any source of carbon. So brown, dry, woody material. And you want to have it pretty deep. So in this brooder, I put one whole bag of the flake shavings in here, and that will last these 24 birds probably for several weeks. I'll just come in, stir it up a little bit as just to make sure that the poop is getting mixed in, and it's not just piling up on top. That's a good way to make your shavings last. And a key telltale sign that you need to add some is if you smell anything at all. Your brooder or your coop or whatever, wherever you're housing the animals, should not smell. Okay, that means if it does smell, you have not enough carbon. You have got too much poop and not enough carbon. Just add it and add it and add it until it does not smell anymore. All right, so now you've got your brooder, whatever it is that it's going to be. You've got a heat source, you've got some bedding, you got some birds. What are you going to feed them? I would love to say just get the best food that you can find. They're only going to eat a little bit of it, so if it's a little bit expensive, that's okay. You're not going to be buying it forever. But really, it doesn't matter that much. Just make sure you get a non-medicated feed, whatever is available that is non-medicated, organic or not. Just get it, because I have a feeling that this stuff is going to be very hard to find. So do your best, get non-medicated feed and give it to them. When they're older, I think, and laying eggs, I think that's where your feed is going to matter more, because whatever they are ingesting is what ultimately is going to be ending up in the eggs that you are either eating or providing to your customers if you're selling these eggs. So when they're older, that's when I would really strongly suggest you get the best feed that you can find. So for example, I have this amazing feed supplier that we found. They do all organic, non-GMO. They mix everything themselves. It's extremely high quality feed. I buy it in bulk to save some money, but for you just starting out, cross that bridge when you get to it. Just get what's available now and feed it to them. Now, as for feed containers, really, you've got a bunch of options. I think the just tray container, the clamshell tray container with the holes in it works great. Depending on the amount of birds that you have, you may need to get multiple of them. But in this coop for 24 birds, I just have one tray feeder, and that's working great. We've used plastic, we've used galvanized steel ones. We've also used the bell feeders that you can either hang or place in here. It looks similar to our water container down here. Really, just get what's available. The birds are not picky. They're gonna eat. They're gonna eat what you give them, and whatever the feed comes in, they're gonna eat out of it. So same thing kind of applies to the water. You really just want to make sure that they always have water available. They're not going to drink a ton of water just because they're small. They're so small, like they're only going to take a couple beakfuls of water at a time, and their beaks are tiny. So I changed my water every couple of days. You don't have to be super anal about it. Just make sure that they have water. Make sure that it's clean. If you have any wood shavings or poop or whatever get into the water, just scoop it out. It's not that big of a deal. Just make sure that it's available and clean. And as for the water container, kind of the same thing. Just get what's available. There's usually, for both the feeders and the waterers, there's usually a number of birds recommended on the packaging. But if there's not, just kind of use your intuition. Like they're tiny. They're not going to eat a ton. They're not going to drink a ton. Get an appropriate sized feeder and waterer for the amount of birds that you expect to have. All right, and lastly, grit. You want to have some little pieces of grit available to them, and grit is what the birds ingest to help them essentially grind up the food that's in their crop. So the way that a bird eats is it'll swallow whatever it's eating, seeds, chicken feed, whatever it is, and it'll just kind of sit in a pouch on their neck called the crop. Okay, so to help grind the food up, they also swallow little pebbles or stones or whatever, sand, anything hard to assist in grinding that food up and helping them digest it. So provide them with just a little dish. We have just a little plastic container that I think my wife got for our son to bring snacks in. So it can be anything. Just put some grit in there. Again, the Tractor Supplies, the Rural Kings, the Country Maxes, wherever you live, the farm stores, they'll have some. Just get chick grit. If they don't have any, I've seen people kind of make their own with like crushed up pistachio shells. You don't want them to be salted in that case, or the pits of stone fruits. So like an apricot or a like an avocado. Blend that up so it's pretty small pieces and give that to them. I've never done that personally, so I don't vouch for that, but that is something that I have seen and heard of people doing. But just make sure that they've got some sort of grit to help them digest their food, and you'll be all good to go. Okay, one last tip that I want to leave you with. If you are able to get your hands on some birds, I see a lot of people saying that you can mix up some tincture of ginger and apple cider vinegar or garlic or whatever, put that in their water as like a vitality drink, and yeah, maybe that works a little bit. One thing I know that for sure works is hard boil some eggs and just mash them up and put them on a sheet of paper. They will eat them, and it really, really steps up their vitality. That's something that we've done the past several times that we've gotten chicks, and we've had basically 0 chick losses. I think we had 1 die, and I think it was because we were sold one that was already sick. So crush up some hard-boiled eggs, just throw them in there, shell and all. They'll pick through them and eat them up and be happy and healthy. I don't know if the vitality water works. We've tried it. You can't really tell a difference, but with the hard-boiled eggs, I've really been able to notice a difference. So try one, try both, up to you, but the hard-boiled eggs definitely help. In summary, let's run down quickly what you need to have in order to produce successful birds. Okay, you need some sort of shelter, 1/4 square foot per bird for probably 6 to 8 weeks for these heritage breed egg layers. Also, you need heat source. This can be either your traditional heat lamp or kind of your newer radiative heater. Whatever it is, it needs to be warm, needs to be consistent, needs to be reliable. You also need some bedding. This can be any source of carbon. Just make sure you got a good amount of it. Food, non-medicated, whatever is available. Organic, whatever you can find. Non-organic, doesn't matter. Just get food and get it to them. You can provide it to them in any sort of container. They're not picky. Water. Again, make sure it's clean, fresh, and available. And provide them with some grit. And then you will be on your way to a successful flock. So the last thing that I wanted to touch on is actually getting the birds themselves. Like, you can get everything else. You can set up your brooder, you can set up your feeders, you can set up your heat sources, you can set up your entire brooder situation, you can set up your entire coop for when they're bigger. But it doesn't matter if you can't get your hands on any chicks. And I think this is going to be a huge problem this spring. The websites that I've ordered from, that I can link in the description, as well as I'll link the video that I did of building this brooder in case you want a large scale brooder. But I think it's going to be very, very hard to get chicks. These websites that I've been looking at, they are not going to have birds available till like June, which is just crazy, because I remember the past couple of years, we could pretty much order them anytime in February or March and get them in April or May. So for them to be pushed back that far, I think there is a huge explosion of people interested in egg producers, egg producing birds, brought on by lots of factors that we've been seeing going on in the last few years with the egg shortages and just the skyrocketing prices of eggs in the stores. I think a lot of people are going to be interested in starting their own backyard flocks, and I think that's amazing. It's a huge opportunity for people to dip their toes into agriculture, home scale agriculture, which is pretty much what we do here. We've sold some stuff on the side just to some friends and family, and our ambition is to create a sustainable business around that, but we're providing for our families first to just get knowledge and experience, really. So I think it's great that people are going to be interested in them, in egg layers, but you are going to have to really work to get the birds. So how I got these ones was quite the adventure. So I'm recording this on March 5th. I drove to every store within about 50 miles of our house to be able to find these birds, and every time they did not have them. Or if I would call the store and ask if they had any birds, by the time I would get there, they would be all gone if they had some. So I kind of got lucky with these, but I was also extremely persistent. I went to this store it's about 45 minutes away from our house 3 days in a row. And on the day that I got these, I had to go multiple times that day. I went in the morning because they had said that they would have the chicks available in the morning. They did not. They got delayed at the post office. So then I had an appointment, so I had to leave the store. And then after my appointment was over, I went back to the store and was lucky enough to get these 24 birds. And I almost bought every single one that they had left. They only had like 36 birds left, and I bought 24 of them. So suppliers, at least around me in central New York, are not getting a huge volume of birds, and they're going instantly. So you need to be persistent, you need to be calling stores, you need to be determined if you want to get these birds. I wish you luck. You can do it. It's fun. I love having them around. They provide amazing eggs. They're great for kids. Just work hard and you can do it. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'm learning. I've learned a lot already, but I don't know everything. So maybe you know something I don't know, or maybe I can help you. Maybe you have a specific situation that you don't know how to overcome or what problem to solve. Maybe I can help. So leave your questions and comments down below, and thank you for watching.